And this is Kirk Hilliard.
This is Byrd. It's the Kirk and Byrd Show. We are here with the VHSL final. On this particular episode, we're going to cover the boys' championship games. That's right. We are down to the final two in all 6 classes in VHSL, high school basketball. And all these games will be at the Siegel Center, which you see behind me. And we've got our panel of experts from all over the state. First, we've got Justin Ditmore, who's covering that whole Roanoke, Lynchburg, all that stuff. Come on, hey, welcome to the show, Justin.
As always, it's a blast, guys. Appreciate y'all having me on one more time.
Oh, yeah. And then Matt Hatfield, VA Preps. He's the young guy in the group who knows everything, all the areas, and he does it with a smile like, yeah, I mean, I'm smarter than y'all, but whatever. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hey, it's always a pleasure, guys. I don't know everything, and what I don't know, I'll just try to make up. But it's a bittersweet time because we're excited for state championships, but we're also sad because the season's winding down and coming to an end.
No, you're so right about that. And then we've got Northern Virginia hoops expert Chris Jollay. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Oh, it's always great to be here. I am not sad the season's over. I've been working too hard, so I'm ready for a break.
And then, of course, my co-host Kirk Hilliard. Why don't you tell folks where they can find us?
Yeah. If you're watching this, please subscribe on YouTube. Please follow us on Twitter at the Kirk and Byrd. All of our other social media, just Google the Kirk and Byrd Show, and we appreciate you watching us.
And what we'll do is we're gonna start with the boys this episode. We'll go classes 1 through 6, starting with 1. We're gonna let Justin, then Matt, then Chris go ahead and tell us where we can find them. Justin.
All right. Well, I'll start. I do a talk show. I fill in on WFIR in Roanoke on Greg Roberts Live. I do high school football, the Haley Toyota High School Football Game of the Week. You can hear on WFIR. I do high school basketball on the Haley Toyota High School Basketball Game of the Week, which you can listen to on the internet on Mixler. In addition to the radio stuff, I also now do Roanoke College softball and baseball. They're streaming. I do the play-by-play for them. You can find me at Justin Ditmore on Twitter, or you can find me on Facebook, and it links to everything I'm doing.
Oh.
And I think Haley Toyota has a coupon code. If you say K&B Show Ditmore, you get like 2% off the deal. Thank you.
Yeah, look at the tricked out Forerunners. They're really cheap. It's great.
Yes. All right. Matt Hatfield, 757. How can we find you, and what do you do?
Sure, publisher for VirginiaPreps.com. We're the Virginia High School Sports site on the Rivals.com network of sites powered by Yahoo Sports. We have all kinds of content up there, articles, previews, recaps, video interviews, message boards. Be kind if you go up there, please. Let's keep no language and be nice. I know it's been respectful, though people want to brag about their teams or say their team's better than their teams. Premium boards, too, and all kinds of things. And I also do 757 Saturday Sports Talk with Coach Ed Young, who coaches at Nansemond River. You can find it on YouTube. It's also on VirginiaPreps.com. every Saturday. And I just learned we're also on Apple and Spotify now. So I'm not sure Ed can use it. I'm not sure I know how to use it, but you don't have to see our ugly mugs. You can hear us instead of seeing us. You just want to listen to it through Apple or Spotify.
Chris.
I love those message boards. If you need to go somewhere to say the 757's overrated, go to those message boards. Anyway, Chris Jollay, I'm the editor-in-chief, novahoops.com. We do scores, standings, schedules, articles, past history of Northern Virginia basketball. Give us a hit, novahoops.com. We're also prevalent on X or Twitter at novahoops.com and actually at novahoops.com, I guess. Anyway, looking forward to seeing you guys in Richmond. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. I just want to say that I in basketball season, I hit both of your sites all the time. Chris, you're really good about getting the scores up very early. And then if I need to know where games are, I go there. And then for Matt Hatfield, he knows, Matt, when your top 10's coming out, it gives me an idea of what's going on. And I watch that. Everybody complains about, hey, I need to spend $3 on content. Well, guess what? That content is very much worth it. So just wanted to plug you guys on that. A great chance. We know you young people. You're not cool if you subscribe to us, but you are. I mean, we're lit, okay? So subscribe to us. We talk about you. We give you coverage that guys our age, we used to get in the local paper, right? And Rusty can tell you, if you got your picture in the paper or you were in the paper, it was a big deal. So this is the equivalent. And For you Loudoun County teams, by the way, we'll get to it. I got a great scouting report for Hampton, for Tuscarora boys, and Hampton girls for Woodgrove. So I just made some phone calls and got some good stuff.
Class 1, and we've got Auburn versus Lancaster. And Justin, you know a little bit about some of these teams, but we'll also go around with everybody else. And Kirk, can you please just jot down? We didn't write it down last time, but jot down our picks to see who really knows the most. All right, Justin. I'm waiting for your scouting report, by the way.
I'm glad you didn't write down the picks from the last show we did. I just want to go on record as saying that, because if I was in Vegas, I'd be out on the street right now. But Class 1 Auburn, look, the Eagles are kind of like sneaky good. In 2020, they were the co-champions, the COVID year. 2022, They won the state championship. And they're just good. They're 22-8 this year. They won their region, obviously. But the teams they lost 8 games, but they lost to Blacksburg twice. Well, Blacksburg is a couple classes higher than them. They lost to Allegheny. They lost to Northside, who's playing for the Class 3 title. And they lost to some teams out of state and some prep teams in West Virginia. They're 14-0 in the region. So they didn't get beat locally much at all. A lot of good guards. They beat George Wythe 4 times. And we know George Wythe is perennially a very good ball club. Got, like I said, good guards. They shoot the ball really well. Nick Millirons, Drew Royal, both really good shooters. They've also got some size. They got a center, Bryce Gill, who can play in the middle, has good size and a little bit of width. They've got 2 kids over 6'4", not including Gill. And for a Class 1 team, that's pretty good size. Auburn is one of those teams that they're a small school, but every year they play for titles in basketball, baseball, softball, football once in a while. Small school, but they've got things going on.
Oh, wow. Okay. Matt, can you tell us a little bit about that matchup as well?
Yeah, to follow up on Justin's point, led by Millirons, whose older brother was a standout. He's a 1,000-point scorer. You have a 1,000-point scorer on the other side for Lancaster and Coach Dwayne Penn and Troy Henderson. He's a 6'1" junior guard who has some offers from Division I schools out there, a few, getting some interest. He had 30 points in last year's state championship win over George Wythe that they won comfortably 62-40 over the Maroons. But that was a more seasoned team. 4 starters with him graduated. This team has some role players that have to step it up, I think, in this spot to beat Auburn, because Auburn has more size. I mean, Henderson's really one of the bigger players on the team, as a 6'1" scoring 2-guard type. Lancaster can win if they can get transition opportunities and dictate the tempo, but I feel like this game is going to come down to the wire. To me, the 2 hardest games to predict on the boys' side are the Class 1 and the Class 6 finals. That's just my personal opinion. So I feel like if Auburn controls the boards, advantage them. If Lancaster can get out in transition, advantage them.
Okay. All right. Now, Chris, do you know anything about these squads? And if not, that's okay. You could do like me and make it up, or just give a strong, this is who I'm picking to win.
I'm going to give you a strong, I know nothing.
Okay. I love that. Okay. All right. But I do want your pick, because we want to go back and eat, even if it's because you think it's really the Auburn down in Alabama playing against Lancaster Mennonites or something, Pennsylvania. But who you got?
Well, give me Lancaster all day long.
Oh, okay. What about you, Kirk?
I picked Lancaster, and I'm staying with them. So I'm going to be consistent. I don't know much about these 2 teams because of connections, but I'm staying with Lancaster.
All right. And then Justin, did you or Matt, did you guys make picks?
I didn't make a pick, but I'm going to go with the fact that Auburn and Reiner, Virginia has a really nice golf course, Auburn Hills. I enjoy playing it. So if I want to keep playing it, I'm picking Auburn.
Oh.
All right. That sounds good to me. And so if we've got Matt going Auburn, we've got couple of Lancaster. I got to go with my man Justin Ditmore, who gave us some good info. And so I've got Auburn as well. All right, let's move on to Class 2, where this is going to be nobody. This is going to, I don't know if anybody knows anything about this. This will be a lot of in-depth analysis needed. Matt, can you brief us a little bit on the matchup between John Marshall and Virginia High?
Well, it's a rematch from 108 years ago between these two teams, believe it or not. But
Wow.
Virginia High did a good job to get this spot. They held off Graham, who's a rival of theirs in the southwestern part of Virginia, in that district. A couple of junior guards, Tayron Woolen, who's really stepped up in his postseason. Keyshawn Smith have been playing well for them. Also got a freshman who's been playing a lot of minutes that has contributed a great deal in their success, and Landon Lee. But John Marshall's a different animal, guys. I mean, just consider what they've done this postseason. They're winning their playoff games right now by 54.6 points per game the last 3 years. And so far in this postseason alone, it's 105.6 for them, 46.2 for the others. All 5 starters made first team all region. Like last year, all 5 starters made first team all state. John Marshall has so many weapons, led by Damon Red Thompson. The point guard is going to James Madison. Latrell Allman, one of the top recruits in the country in 2026, among others on their team. Marcus Jackson, a big man that came in. Aiden Argerbright, a transfer shooter from up in Northern Virginia that transferred in. Dominique Bailey, 2-man who's going to Shawan in North Carolina. This figures to be the John Marshall runaway show.
All right. Does anybody have anything else that they think they can contribute, or does anybody have a dissenting opinion?
I want to congratulate Virginia High on a great season. Okay. Great run. You got to the finals. Congratulations. You're playing a semi-pro team. You had a great year. Don't let the result ruin your season.
Justin, Marshall.
I think Justin just gave him some bulletin board material, guys, and that I don't know. That's making me a little worried for John Marshall.
They don't need a bulletin board. They need a big banner, but
I can put it on a billboard. It won't matter.
They need a billboard in Times Square. But Matt, real quick, just give me a quick blurb. The kid from Marshall, the 2026 prospect, how's Virginia Tech and UVA on him?
They're in the mix. He's pretty wide open. I've talked to him a little bit. I don't think he's in any hurry. I think NC State's in the picture for him as well, which is where Dennis Parker, last year's State Player of the Year, is. And they also graduated a stud from that team in Jason Rivera Torres, who's gotten a lot of playing time for Vanderbilt in the SEC. But I think he's pretty wide open right now. They have a chance. I don't think he's got a definitive favorite at this point.
You know what I think would be very interesting is if Virginia deploys what we talked about, the 4 corners. Still talking about, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, if they start to get impatient and they can minimize it, and you just never know. I would love to see that, but I also agree, and I am picking John Marshall. I think Virginia would have a chance if they just dropped the last part high and it was just like University of. But I think John Marshall will still outscore the Cavaliers this year. All right. All right, let's move on to Class 3. Class 3 is a really good matchup. We've got Northside against Lake Taylor. Let's start with you, Matt, again on this particular matchup. What can you tell us? I was talking to my brother this weekend when I was down in Hampton Roads, and he was telling me he coached the kid that's the big kid in AAU, the 6'9" football player that's going to Syracuse.
Elijah Washington.
My brother had like this amazing AAU team when all those kids were like in the 6th, 7th grade, and they got some of the best players from. He had Lake Taylor, Maury, Granby, a lot of really good athletes. So tell us a little bit about that matchup.
Yeah, Lake Taylor's awful big. We talked about it a little bit last week, and that young man you talk about goes by the nickname of Moss because he can go up as a wide receiver. We got a great photo a couple years ago in a scrimmage against Woodside, one-handed catch where he just grabs it, looks like a giraffe almost, Plaxico Burress, Randy Moss-esque, if you will. He had 28 points, 19 rebounds in 23 minutes in the state semis against James Monroe as the Titans just overwhelmed them quickly. And then there are other big men. He quietly, Rodney Mello Baines, had 13 points and 11 rebounds, just 1 missed shot in 16 minutes. So he was well rested. Lake Taylor's really relentless with their defensive pressure. They can get up in your face, full court. But, Northside, as I'm sure Justin can touch on a little bit too, they have a tremendous point guard right now in Cy Hardy, who is having a wonderful postseason run. He was part of their state championship run last year as a sophomore to go with Michael Harvey, the other sophomore. Billy Pope is no spring chicken as far as state tournaments go. He's done this before. He's won 2 titles. He's got 600 plus wins. He is a veteran. His teams are well prepared. They're well schooled. They don't mind playing in transition. If they're role players like DJ Logan, DJ Villa, Kai Logan, those guys step up here in the spot and they can make it a close game late, get to the free throw line, they have a chance. But if Lake Taylor gives them that first punch and they can't survive it, this could be a Titans runaway. I do think Northside has the ability to stay close with them, but they've got to do something with that size. And I think the key to me is going to be Northside, a team traditionally known for its man-to-man defense. Will they play a zone? Will they throw something at Lake Taylor to slow them down and not let them play up and down the whole game and then pound it inside?
And Justin, you know about – go ahead. Yeah, say Justin, go ahead because you know about
Northside. I was going to say, Northside, to Matt's point, they like to press you as well. So I think you're going to have 94 feet of back and forth. And with Northside, Cy Hardy, his dad, Jermaine Hardy, played football at UVA, played a little bit in the NFL. Mikel Harvey, the other guard, very talented. He's actually starting to get more looks in football. He's visiting Virginia later this month. He's been to Wake Forest. He's been to Liberty. He's been to ODU. Harvey, a very talented player as well. They don't have the size. They've got a couple big guys. Javin Gibson, 6'4". Jalee Green is 6'5". Gibson's a football player, so the physicality won't bother him. But it's a matter of the guys like Via and Logan and Nick Crawford, who's a human speed bump. He's taken like 70 charges in his career. It's ridiculous. If they can create enough pressure to keep Lake Taylor from setting up a half court where the big guys can post up and take advantage, that's what they're going to have to do. That and hit threes. Because, as we've said, if they get into a half-court game where the big guys can work down low, Northside's going to have a problem. But all year they've played teams that have been a little bit bigger, and now those teams, in my opinion, didn't take advantage of their size. But it'll be interesting, and I think it gets down to, Billy Pope's got, like Matt said, 2 titles, over 600 wins. He may bring some defenses out of the closet. I haven't seen him play zone all year, but they haven't played 6'9" and 6'8" all year either. So I think it's going to be interesting just to see if their pressure can create enough turnovers to keep Lake Taylor from taking advantage of their size.
I'll give you one quick X factor for Lake Taylor. Tristan Skipwith. Remember that name. He's their 3-point zone buster guy. If Northside contains him from 3, it could be hard for Lake Taylor to get to that 60, 70 plus point per plateau. If they keep him in check, I think Northside has a chance this game. So you mentioned Crawford being that guy that takes charges. Watch the name Skipwith with so much focus and attention on Baines and Washington, even the point guard Aaron Elliott. If Skipwith's knocking down threes, Titans should be in good shape.
Okay. Oh, okay. Now, let me ask you, I know instead of going all the way to 6, do we think that if this Lake Taylor team played John Marshall, would it still be a foregone conclusion, or do you think this Lake Taylor team could hang with John Marshall?
On its best day, I think they could. But the question to me would be, can they hit enough outside shots? Because, again, they won't be intimidated. Those kids from Norfolk, they've seen, tough teams from that Eastern District.
Mm-hmm.
They play a good schedule. They've played Lansdowne out of district. They played some showcases against quality opponents. So they wouldn't be afraid of the John Marshall, effect, if you will. And they have size inside. I do wonder, though, would they have enough offensive components to hit perimeter shots against them? So, again, they can have a better chance than most would give them, because on when Lake Taylor give you its A game, they look as good as anybody in Tidewater and around the state. When they play down to the competition, they can be a little bit vulnerable, which is the case for so many great teams. Yeah.
All right, cool. And then Chris, I'll go back to Justin and Matt real quick. Picks. Who are you pick? Would you pick, Justin?
I don't bet against Billy Pope, and he's going to be on my radio show tomorrow, so it's in my best interest to pick Northside.
That's a good reason for me. What about you, Mr. Hatfield?
I'm going to go with Lake Taylor. As much as it wouldn't surprise me if Northside got it done to go back-to-back, I just feel like it's Lake Taylor's time. I thought that when I saw him back in the summer at Norfolk State team camp. I think they'd have a great chance, even if they were playing in a higher classification, to compete and possibly win a state title. This is feeling like their year. Wouldn't, be surprised again if Northside got it done, but I like the Titans' size and mixture of athleticism to go with it on the perimeter.
All right, and Mr. Jollay.
I mean, I completely agree with Matt. It wouldn't surprise me if Northside won, but and you never know what'll happen on these college courts. Can they go on, these runs, get these quick runs, set up their press, do some things to bother Lake Taylor? Wouldn't surprise me, but man, I'm going with Lake Taylor. I just feel, as Matt does, that they're kind of a team of destiny this year.
Okay, I'll tell you, and then Kirk, you can go. But last year I was very impressed with Northside. They beat Hopewell, if I'm not mistaken, in the state championship, and their style of play and, like you said, the experience with the coach. I would not be surprised if Northside won, but I think because I'm from the 757, my family lives. I got family. I'm gonna go with Lake Taylor. But I want to be able to say, kind of like Mike Wilbon, he'll say one thing on one show and then he'll say another thing on another show. So he's covered. He said, "I said they would win." I'm gonna say Lake Taylor, but I'm also saying Northside. So I'll edit this. No, I'm going Lake Taylor.
I pretty much ditto what you say. So the tiebreaker for me is about 70 years ago, a young guy from Georgia. There were no tunnels. Took the ferry over from Norfolk to Fort Monroe. That's where all the good-looking girls were. And he met a girl. That was my dad meeting my mom. And I wouldn't be here without Norfolk and Hampton. So I'm going Lake Taylor.
All right. Now let's move on to Class 4. So in Class 4, we have Hampton against Tuscarora. Or do people feel like the Hampton Varina game was the state championship? I don't know. Tell me, Chris, we'll start with you since you're familiar with Tuscarora and they beat Loudon Valley. But what do you think?
Well, I think the Tuscarora Loudon Valley game was a state championship, actually. I mean, based on my perspective.
Yeah, of course.
But
exactly.
just my perspective. No, I mean, it's going to be hard. I didn't mince words. I did say I thought Tuscarora could make it this far. Jaden Johnson, as I mentioned, he's a guard that if you haven't played him before, he's tough, man. And TJ Duggan, the other guard they have there, is playing incredibly well. I mean, for a while, he was known as just kind of a shooter. He's getting a lot more done these days. If you haven't played Tuscarora before, and they got another guard named Peyton Williams, these guys are all seniors. These guys are all experienced. Peyton Williams is a great passer, by the way. But now we get to the state championship, and it is a different animal. Hampton is tough, man. I mean, they've beaten Patriot. I believe their only two losses are to Woodside. Matt will correct me if I'm wrong. Yep. They're a different animal, and they've got some size. And again, Matt, I'll defer to Matt. They've got some size that can really do some damage down low on Tuscarora, who is not a big team. Tuscarora probably isn't going to win this game. I knew how good they are, and I knew they're a dangerous team, and they remain a dangerous team. If Hampton is not playing that well, I guarantee you what's going to happen is Jaden Johnson's going to get to the line about 18 times, and Tuscarora can be in this game. I think Hampton's going to be leading most of the game up 10 to 15 points, but, Tuscarora is dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, I think you hit it on the head. I mean, Jane Johnson's a guy that we watched that game early December against West Potomac when he went off for 34 points. Now, 32 of those came through three quarters, and West Po came back to beat them. And by the way, real quickly, there was a kid that played in that game. I haven't seen him in the box scores lately. I think his name was Jet Thompson. Has he been out injured? Or do you know the update on him? Is he still a factor for them, or has he played at all?
He hasn't been playing. So okay. I don't know. I haven't inquired. He is a 6'4" guy who can jump out of the gym. And even with him, though, Tuscarora down low, that's where they're kind of vulnerable. And they're very vulnerable to foul trouble if you get them in that way, too.
I would worry the thing about, you mentioned it with Gavin Kay inside for Hampton. He's a load inside at about 6'8". Hampton was ultra impressive in their win against Varina, who was coming back to try to make it 3 in a row. They held them off at the end, hit some clutch free throws. And as offensive, and again, wonderful job by Michael Newkirk this year at Tuscarora, as wonderful as Tuscarora can be offensively, and they got some point production outside of Johnson in that win over Loudon Valley with 35 from Duggan and Peyton Williams, I don't know if they can plug up defensively enough of the holes with Kay inside, Malik Johnson who can slash, Jerron Ball at the point who's been playing great ever since they won at Kings Fork in early February, among some others that can knock down outside shots, including Troy Fullwood. I think Hampton, they do have to guard against having played maybe their state championship in some people's eyes against Verona, but Eric Brown's a really detail-oriented coach. I think he's one of the more underrated coaches in the state. Remember, he was, coaching that team with Walter Brower when they won the state championship a dozen years ago with Anthony Cat Barber, who went on to NC State, and Jordan Baker and Samuel Royal. I like the Crabbers in this one, just their overall team makeup and chemistry and how they've blended in and improved from day one to now. If they don't have a drought or a letdown spot, I think they're the better team in the spot, even though Tuscarora is dangerous and streaky offensively.
Yeah. Justin Ditmore, do you have any thoughts or a pick, or have you heard anything about any of these teams?
I don't know much about the game, but I know it's not wise to pick against Hampton, so I'm going with Hampton.
The white
Smart.
Vic, Tyrod Taylor, come on.
Tyrod went there. He's a Hokie. There you go. That's all I need.
Okay. All right. So, is that your pick too, Kirk? Are you going? You said Crabbers. Yeah. You're going.
No.
You going Crabbers, Kirk?
No.
Okay. Because you're familiar with both programs.
I saw Tuscarora Friday night. They ran Loudon Valley out of the gym. Was very impressed. And like Matt said, Chris said, Hampton is much better. And Hampton's bigger. Tuskegee small. Their starting center is 6'1", Isaac Urey. By the way, him and the three guards, we'll talk about those three guards, but those three guards, very good. But they have not come close to facing a team like Hampton. Hampton's got that big combo guard, Malik, and then they've got two bigs. One of the bigs is probably going to be a Division II player, and I think Tuskegee's lack of size could really hurt. Hampton again. Matt, I'm glad you said that about Eric Brown because he's a very, very good coach. So it's one of those things where I would say that Tuscarora, I don't know if they could beat Hampton once in 10 games, maybe once in 20, but like the 80, that's 44 years ago, like the 80 hockey team, you only got to win once. If Tuskegee can get very, very hot, all right, Peyton Williams, Duggan, TJ, if it's Dugan, just somehow let us know. And then Jaden Johnson. Those guys need to, all three of them, play lights out. Because if they shut one of them down, those other guys, I think between those three guards, they need 60 points. Isaac Urey, 6'1", he's a good player. He gets into foul trouble, though. He's got to stay out of foul trouble, and he's going to have his hands full. He needs to play. Hampton's just a much, much better team. I picked Hampton to win it. I think in the preseason, in last episode, I picked them. Having said that, Tuscarora is going to play the game of their lives. Tuskegee is going to – Goliath is going down. The boys in Leesburg, that school's only 14 years old. They got a great athletic tradition. And I'm doing the Rusty Bird pick. I like Tuscarora to shock the Crabbers because Phoebus never beat Hampton when I went to high school. So there you go.
That's because you were on the team. All right. Chris, you said Tuskegee, right?
No, I'm saying Hampton.
Oh, okay. You're saying how you going against it? I thought you had to go with a Northern Snowford school.
You're going.
I thought, after what you said, I'm going Hampton because I thought this was a competition of some sort.
It is.
It can happen, Kirk, and the key really is for Jaden Johnson and these kids. It depends how it's officiated too. If Tuscarora can put Hampton in a little foul trouble and Jaden Johnson can get to the line, like I said, a bunch of times, then I think they can stay close enough where, they can have that 1 in 20 chance or that 1 in 10 chance. But I mean, if this is some sort of competition, Hampton, sorry, guys.
All right. Well, look, I'll save mine for last in that Kirk pulled a Rusty, so I can't pull a Rusty. I was actually going to go Tusky here, but I've said for a couple of weeks. I've said Hampton High. I think that Tuscarora can win if things align correctly. You never know how anybody's going to react playing at the Siegel Center under those lights. You don't know how the officiating is going to go, how that impacts the players and the kids. And so the other thing is, Hampton could be overconfident. I mean, I would be a little cocky if my only losses were to Woodside. I think the tiebreaker for me, though, is going to be that Hampton has played a tougher schedule. And I see that Tuscarora, their schedule, though, is very Loudoun County heavy. Like that's what they mostly did. I don't think they were really challenged quite as much. So for that, again, I'm going to go ahead and pick Hampton, but would not be surprised that if Tuscarora won this game. Move on now to Class 5, a tradition of basketball. They've won state championships, and that's LC Byrd against Woodside, the defending Class 5 state champion. Woodside's head coach, Steph Walsh, played for Woodside when they were nationally ranked and won back-to-back state championships. We'll start with you, Matt, since you're this is your region. 757 even going up to the 804. Tell us about this game and who you may project to win.
I mentioned it with Eric Brown guys at Hampton. Troy Mans is one of the very best coaches year in and year out at LC Byrd. I mean, how he's gotten this team, which doesn't have the ballyhoo Division I prospects like some of his past teams that had Kenny Williams, who went to North Carolina, or Pinky Wiley, Mario Haskett, among others, to the state championship is quite impressive, because you could argue that last year's team that had his son Yuri on it was more talented than this team. But here they are with just 2 losses on the season, 24-2. Their scoring production is going down from in the 70s throughout regionals to a 40-39 escape against Massaponax in the quarterfinals, a 47-45 thriller over Albemarle, where the Marion Hunt hit that shot that won them the game. That was a wild one. I don't know if you saw it. It was Christian Leitner-esque, where they inbound it down a point after a couple Albemarle free throws, and then he hits a 3 to win the game, takes a dribble, and the place goes nuts there. He's going to be a key factor at 6'4" with the wing guard for the Byrd Skyhawks, because Woodside's size is imposing. We've talked about teams with the size advantage, certainly with Hampton in that matchup. And I think Woodside's got it here with Silas Barksdale, 6'8" plus inside, Jordan Houston inside. And I was watching a little bit of the Woodside Green Run game before I had my ODU broadcasting duties, and it was Green Run was hanging in there. It was 10-9. Next thing you know, you blink, it's 18-9, and Woodside gets up in that ball game by 23 points after Green Run cut it to 6. And the key reason was, besides Barksdale controlling the glass with nearly another double-double of 20 points and 8 rebounds, their point guard, Travis Hamilton, who I don't understand how he didn't get all region, 7 assists, guys, no turnovers. So I just wonder if Byrd can score enough. Woodside doesn't seem to shoot themselves in the foot with mistakes unless they have a bad shooting day and Byrd gets them in foul trouble. And this is no knock to what Byrd's accomplished. I actually think this is a Woodside route. I think Woodside wins pretty comfortably in this one.
Wow. Okay, Justin. You remember Troy Mans, Virginia Tech Hokie.
I know.
In
addition to him being a Hokie, I saw the end of the final shot of that Byrd game, and like Matt said, it was like a little Christian Leitner thing. I'm a firm believer every championship team has that one game during a run where they shouldn't win it. They can't win it, but somehow they do win it. I think Byrd had that game. They're going to have the momentum, and I think Byrd wins it.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I like that. Just my last name. All right. Chris Jollay.
It was interesting. I told you guys Potomac Falls had a path to this final, and it ended up being a war. Albemarle came from behind, defeated Potomac Falls in a legendary game. And then right after that, LC Byrd beat Albemarle in one of the most legendary games I've seen. So, LC Byrd battle tested coming out of that side of the bracket. However, I just can't see it. I'm on this Woodside bandwagon that Matt described. They're just so good. It's just hard for me to imagine LC Byrd. And as I talked about last week, they're still pretty young. They're going to be going under the bright lights of the Siegel Center against a fantastic team. I like Woodside.
Yeah. And so Kirk, your thoughts?
Woodside. I picked Woodside in the beginning. Big team. Coach Lamont Struthers from Menchville was kind enough to talk to me about them. And he talked to me about the Hampton Crabber boys too. But I just think they're too good. I'm going to stay with them. Their size is pretty unbelievable. I mean, I like Woodside all the way.
Yeah, I picked Woodside. One, they've only lost one game, and that was to Peninsula Catholic. And they have had some, like, where some of these teams, they're in the state finals, but a lot of them had really close games, especially in these playoffs. You know, you're talking a lot of 2-3 games under 5-point margins. And but Woodside has not been the case. They have been blowing everybody out. The last team to really give them much of a game was my Bruins. Bethel only lost by 6.
According to your point, Rusty, the playoffs by 21.6 points per game. So Birds had some nail biters. Woodside has not.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that was one. That's. I'm sorry. I look back. That was a regular season game, but I had to go back that far to find a game that was that close. I'm picking Woodside to win. My younger brother played at Woodside. My brother Elliot was just missed playing with Steph Welsh. Woodside, I think they'll win, but I think Byrd will not be intimidated. Like, Justin picked Byrd. I think everyone else went Woodside, and I did say Byrd up until Justin to get here, but yeah, Justin picked Byrd. I'm sorry. Yeah, everybody else, it looks like, picked Woodside. So let's go ahead on now and go to Class 6. So we've got South Lakes playing Patriot. This is a rematch of a game earlier this year. And I know I saw Chris at that game, and of course Kirk and I were there. But Chris, can you give us an overview of this game?
Sure. I mean, as you mentioned, Patriot won the first meeting at Patriot. Of course, different animal when you go to a team's home court as opposed to playing at a neutral site at Siegel Center. The big thing about that is, Patriot was obviously there last year. So a lot of their players are accustomed to what they're going to go through. Last year against Hayfield, as you recall, it was a pretty defensive game. A lot of times at Siegel Center, that's what this turns into. Now at Patriot, it was an offensive game where I can't remember the final score, but I believe Patriot was like even in the 80s, something like that. South Lakes came back late, made it like 82-69 or whatever it was. South Lakes, we've talked about them. They're playing well. David Rochester was out for a while. The O'Connell transfer, 6'8" guy who can hit the 3. He's back, and he played pretty well and has been playing more minutes than I know Coach Mike Desmond maybe necessarily expected. So that's a huge weapon for them to have, especially on a court like Siegel Center. It's going to be a defensive struggle. It's not going to be as offensive a game as it was. But Patriot, as I talked about last week, they're so versatile. And they will adapt to whatever kind of style they're playing, with Desmond Hopkins and Isaiah Vick and obviously Tay Barber. Now, Tay has not been there as well. Tay was a transfer from Osborne last year. But, man, I don't expect him to have any problems under the big lights. This game is fascinating, and I talked to some people before the South Lakes Patriot game. Kind of each team is so deep, and Patriots been getting a lot more. You think of Hopkins, Vick, and Barber, but Patriots been getting a lot more from their bench lately. Some key contributors coming up and really making a difference. You know, this happens every year with Coach Sherm. I mean, they just reload. And that's going to be a big factor as well. Each team, it depends. They can do lots of different things to give each other a different look that they didn't show in the first game. I know the big conversation was who's going to guard Jordan Scott, and then who's going to guard Isaiah Vick. Is it Rochester that's going to guard Vick, or are you going to go smaller on him? Because Vick is so quick to the basket and attacking the basket. So it's going to be a great game. my original pick was Patriot. I'm going to remain with that because I just think they're the safer pick. But this is going to be a really good game. I think Matthew said earlier, I mean, toss-up city, really. And each coach, great coaches. Mike Desmond, a fantastic coach. And obviously, Sherman, a fantastic coach. There's a lot of ways this game is going to go, but expect it to be a lot more defensive early.
Yeah, I agree. Justin, any thoughts on this one?
Hey, I picked Patriot before we did the show before the quarterfinals. I'm going to keep riding it and going with Patriot.
All right, Matt Hatfield.
Yeah, Chris, you hit all the high points. I'm really looking forward to this game. I think it has the makings to be the best championship of the bunch. I think, in fact, in both the boys and girls side, the Class 6 game could very well be the best, which is the highest enrollment. You would expect that in a lot of cases. It hasn't always been the case, but I think it will be this time. Wouldn't be surprised if we get overtime. I'm conflicted on who wins. Beginning of the year, I had South Lakes preseason 1, Patriot 2. I took Patriot in a thought of the bracket when it started. I think South Lakes is playing a little bit better right now. I think those guys around Jordan Scott, if Saul Vita, Brian Kennedy, Aiden Billings, Tyler Andre coming off the bench step up, they can win this ball game. But to me, what might swing it is, you remember this, Chris, last year against Hayfield. Patriots started slow. They could not knock down outside shots. They have the outside shot guy now in Tay Barber, who's headed to the Ivy League, headed to Harvard to play his college hoops. I could see him making a big three that wins it late. And in the previous meeting, they outscored South Lakes by 27 points, 12 made threes to just 3 for the Seahawks from behind the three-point line. If South Lakes keeps that three-point make deficit to, I think, 9 points or less, 3 more made threes or less, Seahawks win. If it's more than that, I go Patriot. So I'll go Patriot close.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the game last year. I mean, that was the game earlier this year is made 3-pointers. Matt hit it. I think it'll go differently on a neutral court, but that was the game right there.
Kirk.
So a week ago, I just come off of seeing South Lakes destroy Madison in the regional final. So I was a little intoxicated by them. And I flipped my preseason pick of Patriot, who I'm very impressed with. And I picked South Lakes to be Patriot. I'm close to flipping on that because Sherman Rivers is such a great coach. And the guys that you all are talking about, I think that if South Lakes plays with the intensity that they played against Madison, I think that they'll win. I think the difference maker is that if I were going into this game, I would feel better if I lost previously and I coach the kids up. So I think that works in South Lake's advantage. Rochester being back, he's got like a calf thing that's like, it comes and it goes. So he needs to be healthy. And I think Jordan Scott is definitely the best guy for Vic. Vic's maybe a little stronger. He's older, but Jordan Scott's first step is tough to defend. I still like South Lakes. As I said last week, they'll be surprised if Patriot wins it. But South Lake's just a great team all around. Tyler Andre, if he's hot, that kid can shoot. He got a lot of confidence. Brian Kennedy, football player. I think he's a transfer from Westfield. He's one of the best guards I've seen this year. And then Salvito, man. Salvito's hot. So if they're clicking, and I predict they're going to be, I'm going to stay with South Lakes.
Okay. I did, Matt said a lot of what I said. Last year's state championship game, I won't say that Patriot got overdone by the lights and being there, but I two things I noticed. Patriot had not made it to the Siegel Center, before, and Hayfield, although it wasn't the same team, a lot of those kids play a big role in Hayfield winning the championship the year before. And it is something, it looked like Hayfield just felt comfortable. They had the experience, and it took Patriot a minute to get adjusted. Playing in an arena that size is very different from playing in a high school gym when you don't have that same depth perception.
Lights.
And the lights, And then you just had, by the time they kind of figured some things out, I think it was a little too late. To me, the hardest part for Coach Rivers and his Patriots were everything up until this week. I think they were on a mission. They just had to do it. They had to get through those games. I think the fact that they were challenged by a Madison, they were challenged by some teams this year. I think beating South Lakes. Normally, I kind of go with what Kirk is saying when a team has beat one team, then you have the revenge factor. But I think this game is bigger than South Lakes versus Patriot. I think this is Patriot against Patriot. Coach Rivers is going to get it done, and he's going to have those kids focused. It doesn't matter who comes out there. I hope officiating doesn't impact the game. I want to see Isaiah Vick rise to the occasion. We know about Tay Barber, but they've got a number of good athletes in football, basketball players that if they were not playing at Patriot, they would be stars in their own rights on other teams. So I do like Patriot. The game won't be as close as as big a margin as when they played them previously, but I like Patriot to win it all again. Like when I was there at the end of that championship last year, Coach Rivers was like, "We will be back." So
Des Hopkins, by the way, Rusty, he's the X factor. If Des Hopkins has a big game, Patriot wins.
Yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts, guys? Is there anything on these last couple of games? Yeah, I do want us to do our kind of major overview. Okay, if we had to throw these all up, it's a tournament. There's a play-in game, and then we got our final four, final two. Who would you have as your two final teams based on where we are now, and who would win? We'll start with you, Justin.
I'd take the Class 6 final. I think those two would be the best, and I already went with Patriot, so I'd say Patriot wins.
Okay, now that's the best game. What I guess I mean is, if you're thinking Patriot,
right,
Patriot will play John Marshall?
John Marshall against Patriot.
Okay, all right, and you think Marshall would win or Patriot?
I would say John Marshall because they're borderline illegal right now, so I'd go with John Marshall.
Chris Jollay.
Gosh, the one game, I'm going with, there are about 5 teams that I put in that class, like John Marshall, Woodside, Hampton, and both of the Class 6 teams, South Lakes and Patriot. I think Class 6 is it, man. That's the championship.
Okay.
Move up in class. VHSL needs to let people move up.
Yeah, or make
people move up. Yeah.
Until they do that, Class 6 is my title game. I know it's not completely rational, and John Marshall, Woodside, and Hampton could also win that game.
and maybe
that's
Taylor.
My thoughts.
Okay. All right, Kirk.
Same ones. I'd go Marshall. Almost a tie for South Lakes and Patriot, and then I'll go Woodside. Woodside's size is unbelievable, so that would be my final four, and I would actually take Marshall beating South Lakes since I'm picking South Lakes. But and then for the third place game, I would actually take that Woodside game against the South Lakes Patriot loser would be a very cool. But Marshall's just got way too much talent, man. Whew. So,
all right, Matt.
I think you go with John Marshall based on I gave you the margins of victory for the playoffs. John Marshall's is 59.4. Lake Taylor's is 28.8. Woodside's is 21.6. Class 6 is, I think, most anticipated game for sure. I do find it interesting. We've not had a Class 5 repeat champion. Think of all the great champions we've had in Class 5 since the realignment in 2014 from the likes of Henrico, Potomac, LC Byrd, Green Run, Maury, Highland Springs. List goes on and on. There's not been a repeat, so Woodside's going for that. My final would be, I think you have a great final four. Take the Class 2, the two teams in Class 6, South Lakes and Patriot, Marshall, Woodside. But remember, Woodside beat Patriot. They also beat Hampton twice. So I'll be a little different and go John Marshall over Woodside just because of that. Only one loss for Woodside to a private school, and John Marshall is John Marshall. So,
all right. And I've got the same final, but I've got Woodside beating John Marshall by 5. We will see how right we are, or how wrong Kirk is, but this will be a lot of fun. Looking forward to being down there, and again, this time of year is just awesome. It is so much fun. If there's any final thoughts you have, we'll start with you, Chris Jollay. Any final thought?
One thought, I just want to call out in a good way, Justin in Southwest Virginia. I was there last year. In Richmond, there's nothing like it. I was at a hotel. They don't care if they're playing John Marshall. The turnout is unbelievable. By the way, I want to tell everybody, book your hotel rooms now, or you're going to be left out, because you have the A10 women's tournament, you have this fantastic event, and you have a soccer tournament, youth soccer tournament going on down there.
Ooh.
Come on up. I wanted to just shout out Southwestern Virginia for just the unbelievable fan support they get. And I'll see you guys in Richmond.
All right. Sounds good. Justin Ditmore.
Going to be a lot of fun. And just to follow up what Chris said, Northside played Tunstall and they packed Krieger Center at Roanoke College. So expect a lot of green and gold from the Northside faithful come next weekend.
All right. And we'll go with you, Matt, and then Kirk.
Yeah, the final thoughts to follow up on what Justin said. It's so awesome to see not just you guys, but the fans that come out from all different parts of the state to just give you those goosebumps, the energy in the building at the Siegel Center for these championship games, especially as they're going down to the wire. And one team I do want to shout out to, even though it's public school VHSL state tournament we're talking about, I got a chance to cover the private school state finals on Saturday over at Benedictine, and I usually don't get to because it falls on a different weekend. We've got our guy Will Garlick doing it for us, but I was thoroughly impressed with the battle between Paul VI and St. Anne's Belfield of Charlottesville. Chance Mallory is unbelievable for St. Anne's Belfield, and Paul VI, I'll make this statement that may not go over well, people. They're the best team in the state, public or private, bar none. Their starting five is ridiculous. They're even better than John Marshall. Their starting five is ridiculous. They're missing Patton Bonga, who's going to Duke. They got, obviously, Darren Harris, who's the best shooter in the state, going to Duke. They have the point guard, Ben Hammond, going to Rhode Island. Jordan Smith, who's a man amongst boys. Jaquan Womack coming off the bench. Garrett Sunder going to Notre Dame. They're just loaded. And the fact they've played six games in 8 days, and they're 32-2. They're going to go play in I think it's the Nationals now in Indianapolis. It used to be the Geico. Now it's the Chipotle one or whatever it is in April. They're just something. They're a joy to watch, and that's a machine there. That is a real machine, and job well done by them, because they're the most impressive team I've seen in the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Oh, that's great info. I'm glad to have heard you say that, because I know a couple of, actually early in the season, a couple of local folks kept saying we got to go see this Paul VI team, and they have not disappointed. So thank you for that. So look, for Justin Ditmore, Chris Jollay, Kirk Hilliard, Matt Hatfield, this has been the Kirk and Byrd Show of VHSL Boys Basketball. We are out.